It's finally done. Glad to say that I can put this account behind me and move on to some bigger and better things. For anyone that's just watching this video and hasn't watched the previous videos, the series, and what the series was about was creating an account, high-level account, and what I defined as a high level at the beginning of the series was I said basically if you're 105 combat, you have all hard diaries done, you have barrows gloves, you have a godsword set, I'd say you're a pretty high level account. You have pretty good combat, you have a pretty well-rounded account. You've done a lot of stuff in game at that point, so of course it's not a max account, but I'd say it's a high level account. There's two things I was showing in the videos. The first thing was showing how I did it. So basically the entire thing, everything I did in detail. So if you're new to RuneScape or you've always wondered how people get high level accounts, I show exactly what I do the entire way through. Very specific. If you follow the guide, you'll have an account just like this. And then number two, I wanted to show how long it would take if you played about 1 hour a day. I did everything as efficiently as I could. I made my own money, which is actually a pretty big drag on efficiency when you compare it to the efficiency site. And we'll show how efficiently I played against the Crystal Math Labs efficiency thing. I made all my money myself. I didn't transfer any money or anything like that. I didn't get any help from friends or my other accounts or anything like that. Everything I did on this account was on the account itself. All the money I made on the account was from a guaranteed moneymaker. So if you follow the guide, there's no RNG, you go to a boss and I got lucky or anything like that. I did something that you will get the money if you go and do. So I have been posting one video every week since I began this series, except for last week, so sorry for anyone that was hoping or that was looking forward to seeing that. And every video every week, besides I think 2 weeks, have been 9 hours of gameplay. The day marker you see up in the corner, for every Monday through Friday, I counted 1 hour I could play, and then Saturday and Sunday I could play 2 hours. So in other words, in 1 week, I got 9 hours of playtime, and that's what I would post for video every week. So at day 70, that would mean that I played 10 weeks, which would mean I played 90 hours total. And there would be a day 70 up in the corner of the screen. And the reason for no video last week is because the series has been getting kind of stale, I feel. It's getting a little repetitive and old, so I just wanted to finish it all off in one last video. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and start off where I left off on the last video. So last week I was training attack in Nightmare Zone, and then I did all the medium diaries, I think, or at least most of them. So this week I started off training attack in Nightmare Zone again. I used the same setup as I was using last week, a whip plus Prosy plus D boots, D defender, you know, the typical setup. And what I already explained in the previous video, I was averaging around 112k XP per hour, I would say. Usually when I'm training other accounts, I don't use prayer, so I was actually pretty surprised at my XP rates, because I usually don't get anywhere near that much XP per hour, especially at these low levels. And I guess typically I'm AFKing a little bit more. This account I was paying a bit more attention and using power surges and that type of stuff. So going from 80 to 85 attack, getting 112k XP per hour, that took about 11.5 hours about. So with 85 attack, 85 strength, we have over 85 combat, so we can use Neve as a Slayer Master. So next I moved over to Slayer and fletching at the same time. I fletched Mithril darts up until I could fletch Addy darts at 67, and then Addy darts the rest of the way to 70. From level 60 to 67, I fletched 24,484 Mithril darts, and I lost a little over a mil on those. Then from 67 to 70, I fletched about 12,645 Addy darts. I lost a little over a mil on those as well. And I just did those while on task, while in between my attacks, while slaying. And once I was done with 70 fletching, and I'll get more into Slayer later on, I was just doing Slayer while doing fletching. And the reason why I was doing fletching at the same time as Slayer is because fletching is a 0-time skill, so you want to combine it with some other skill that you can do at the same time. Normally you can do it with agility or Slayer or maybe a couple others. We're done with pretty much all the skills that we could combine it with besides agility, but we can't do agility yet because we need to finish the Kandaren hard diary before we get to agility, and that requires 70 fletching. So after we have 70 fletching, which shouldn't take too long because it's very quick, even when you're doing it combined with Slayer, it's still very quick. We're going to finish off fire making and smithing. So we just have one fire making level left to get, so I just bought some new logs and got that really quickly in just a couple minutes. And then smithing, we need to get to level 75. So I went over to the blast furnace and I did, I think, something like three 3 or 4k gold ore, which took me, I think, a little under an hour. And then finally I went over to Barbarian Assault and I did one entire run. I defeated the queen, and that allowed me to buy a granite blade body and finish off the Kandarian Hard Diaries. And the rewards off the Kandarian Hard Diaries are your headgear, gives you a free teleport to Sherlock every day. Thormac will enchant battle staffs for 30,000 coins rather than 40,000. The Flax Keeper will exchange 120 noted flax daily for 120 noted bowstrings. Coal trucks can hold 308 coal. And then the big one, the reason why we are doing it, is you can switch your Kami teleport spawn location to just right outside the bank, which is very useful for training agility at the Seers course. Then you also get 15% more marks of grace while doing the Seers agility course, 10% more reward points when playing Barbarian Assault. You have a 10% more or increased chance of your bolts while using the rune crossbow, your enchanted bolts activating their special effect. You have a 10% higher yield from the Catherby herb patch, and then the normal lamp, which I put on Slayer. After that, I got 71 agility using the Seers agility course and using the Camelot teleport. That's actually the best way to train agility up until the Arty course. You train it the same way as normal, but once you finish a lap, you teleport to Camelot, which puts you right next to the start of the course. And the top XP per hour when doing it that way, I think, is about 55k, plus or minus a couple k XP. So after 71 agility, I decided I wanted to finish off all my skills for the diaries. So for rune crafting from level 60 to 65, I made 16,732 lava runes, which took about 3.5 hours. That's getting about 50k XP per hour, so if you can get better than that, then it should take even less time. Then I moved on to crafting. We need 70 for a diary, so I went ahead and made 281 earth staffs up until level 62 crafting. Then from 62 crafting, I made about 1,320 fire battle staffs to get to 66. And then from 66 to 70, I made about 1,756 air battle staffs. And in total for crafting, I spent probably about 2 mil. And it probably took around 2 hours. Then I moved on to herblore. We need to get from level 60 to 66 herblore. And prices of potions and ingredients are always changing, so I wouldn't just copy me with herblore. I would go ahead and check all the prices and see which is the best XP per GP, and also consider how much XP per hour it gives you. But I ended up choosing prayer potions because they were much cheaper than the other ones, and I only needed a bit of XP. So I made about 2,543 prayer potions, and that ended up costing me about 1.5 mil. And it took about 1 hour. And then the final skill besides Slayer was construction, so I moved on to that, and I had to get from level 60 to 65. So that took 2,929 oak planks, and that took about half an hour. I just made oak larders like before, and the oak planks costed me about 1.5 mil. So for Slayer, the tips I'm going to give apply to kind of low level Slayer, like levels, this is like assuming around level 60 to 70 area for Slayer. So some of the stuff, if you're a higher Slayer level, you have access to some of the higher Slayer monsters. This stuff may not be quite accurate, so keep that in mind while watching this. So I chose Neve over Duradel for my Slayer, and a couple things I want to go over first. Since we don't have a Slayer ring, a quick way to get over to Neve is to teleport to the Grand Exchange with a Varrock teleport or a Ring of Wealth, and then run northeast and use the Spirit Tree and use that to go to the Gnome Stronghold. And then from there you just run southwest and you can get to Neve pretty quick. You only need to go to Neve when you need to cancel a task, because you can use NPC Contact, which is a spell on the Lunar Spellbook. Using NPC Contact, you can speak to Neve from anywhere in the game. So that is what I use to get new tasks. If you have a Barrage task, you can go to World 330. Use a redirection scroll from Nightmare Zone on a house teleport to switch your house teleport over to Rimington. Teleport to Rimington, and use one of the people that are hosting a house there to switch your spellbook over to Ancients, and then you can switch it back to Lunars which will save you quite a bit of time. You won't have to go to the pyramid in the desert, and you won't have to go to Lunar Isle to switch your spellbooks. That shouldn't be happening too often though, because the only task that we're going to be able to do that we burst is Dust Devils. So the supplies we're going to need for Slayer are cannonballs, supersets. I did not buy super combats. That is kind of a waste of money. Just use super attack, super strength, and then on some tasks, super defense. prayer potions, food like monkfish. Ceridome and godsword is extremely helpful. I did do a little bit of hunter after finishing those skills and diaries before starting Slayer so that I could afford a SGS. You're going to want an occult necklace for bursting tasks, as well as an ancient staff, or a master wand or Kodai wand if you can afford those. Ancestral is also very helpful if you can afford that. Otherwise, you can just bring like monk robes, because the monster's defense isn't that high, so you'd rather, it's better to have prayer bonus than magic attack bonus. And any other magic damage increasing armor piece that you have, use that. And as far as spending your Slayer points, we actually need to buy a Slayer helmet for the Desert Hard Diary, which makes it so we're not going to really be able to afford much of anything. Typically, I say to wait to buy the Slayer helmet until after you have most of the other stuff unlocked, because there's other stuff that benefits your XP per hour more than unlocking the Slayer helmet. But in our case, we won't be doing Slayer long enough to unlock those and the Slayer helmet, so save up your points until you can buy a Slayer helmet unlock. And then after that, I would start using your points towards blocks. After blocks, then skips, then Slayer Ring, superior creatures, task extensions, and all that other stuff that in this video and on this account I never got to, so I'm not going to go too into detail on all that stuff. How I had my blocks and skips planned is right here. So for block, I had Aberrant Specters, Spiritual Creatures, Iron Dragons, and Still Dragons. I ended up getting one of those on my block list, but that's all the points I had time for, or I had. And then skips, all Wyverns, Cave Horrors, Red Dragons, Elves, Blue Dragons, Brine Rats, Turoth, and Zygomites. And if you're following me and you're stopping Slayer at level 72 and you need a Slayer helmet, I would actually probably not do any of these skips besides maybe Elves until you have your Slayer helmet to ensure that you don't have to go past level 72 Slayer in order to get it. After you get it, then you want to start skipping these things. And then for the tasks that you want to do, you want to use bracelets, some new bracelets that came out a few months ago or maybe like a year ago, I don't know. Instead of Barrow's gloves, there's Expeditious bracelets and Slaughter bracelets. And here is a list of tasks you want to do and which bracelet you want to use, along with the XP per hour that I got with my stats while doing these tasks. The Expeditious bracelet makes it so that you have to kill less of a monster during a task. It has a 1 in 4 chance of counting a kill as 2 kills. And then the Bracelet of Slaughter has a 1 in 4 chance of counting a kill as 0 kills, which means it extends your tasks. So you want to use the Extender, which is Bracelet of Slaughter, on the good tasks, and the other one on the bad tasks. And doing this, I was able to average around 40 to 45k XP per hour. While training Slayer, I did train defense so that I could get my combat up. Because my defense is so much lower than my attack and strength, it was the fastest way to get combat levels, so that I could hit that 105 combat milestone. So once I hit about 68 Slayer, I went on to finish pretty much all the hard diaries besides Valley Hard Diary. If you have your Slayer helmet, you can do the Desert Hard Diary. If you don't have a Slayer helmet at 68 Slayer, then you'll have to wait to do the Desert Hard. So the first diary I did was the Western Province Hard, and the rewards you get off this diary are the ability to upgrade Void top and bottom to the Elite versions. The Elite versions they have a prayer bonus, and they are slightly better for magic and range because of a little bit of a damage bonus. You have access to the locked room under the Apatal Temple. You have access to the better Red Chin Hunter area, so that's what I'm going to be using for 99 Hunter. You get 100 free Ogre Arrows per day. Teleport crystals can hold 5 charges instead of 3. You get 1 free daily teleport to the fishing colony with your Western banner. And you can buy and use Crystal Halley. So a lot of those are actually really good. The Hunter area is extremely good. The Crystal Halley is extremely good for PVM. And the Elite Void is also a pretty big increase from the regular Void. And some of these diary clips actually are a little out of order. I did do a little bit of hunting and a little bit of Slayer in between some of these diaries. I'm just going to go through pretty much all the diaries right here though. The hard diary that I did after the Western Province is the Fremenic diary. The rewards off of the Fremenic diary were you get the ability to change the Enchanted Lyre teleport location over to Waterbirth Island. Aviances in the God Warriors dungeon will drop noted Addy bars instead of non-noted. You get a shortcut to the Roof of the Troll Stronghold, which requires 73 agility. And you get access to 2 new lunar spells, which are actually really helpful. Tan Leather and Recharge Dragonstone. The next diary is the Karamja Hard Diary, and this one has almost no rewards. Your Karamja Gloves 3 will now have unlimited teleports to the underground portion of the Shiloh Village mine. and you gain access to the underground mining area in Shiloh. After that is the Mauritania Hard Diary. So the rewards off that are Robin will exchange 26 noted bones for 26 noted bone meal and 26 noted buckets of slime. You get double Mortmire fungi while collecting them. You get 50% more prayer when burning shade remains. You get a shortcut on Moss the Harmless. You get 50% more runes from Barrow's chests. You get Bone Crusher, which crushes bones whenever you kill a monster. And when they crush the bones, you get half the prayer experience. This does have to be charged though. You charge it with Ecto tokens, which you can get Ecto tokens by doing the Ecto Functus. Your Mauritania legs will now have unlimited teleports to Burg de Rot, and you get 7.5% more Slayer experience in the Slayer Tower when you're killing things on a Slayer assignment. For the Lumbridge Hard, which is what I did next, you get the Explorer's Ring 3, which has 50% run energy replenished 4 times every day, and unlimited teleports to the Cabbage Patch. You get access to a shortcut from the Lumbridge Swamp over to the desert, and you get 10% increased XP from Tears of Guthix. Next up is the Artie Hard. So you get the Artie Cloak 3, which is actually a fairly decent cape. It gives stab and magic attack and defense, and a pretty big prayer bonus. It also has 5 daily teleports to the Artie Farm Patch. You get 150 free noted essence per day. From Wizard Cromperty, you have the ability to toggle your Watchtower teleport from the Watchtower over to the center of Yanil. And in the Tower of Life, more of your drops will be noted. And you have a 10% increased chance of successfully pickpocketing stuff anywhere in RuneScape. Next up is the Wilderness Hard, and the sword that you get from that now has 1 teleport to the Fountain of Ruin per day. You get 50% more lava shards per scale. You get access to 2 new shortcuts. One of them is over by the lava dragons, and the other one is over near the lava maze. You can have 5 ecumenical keys instead of 3. You get 30 free random runes from the guy in the mage bank every day. When you're using the obelisks to teleport around the wilderness, you can choose the location that you teleport to. When entering the resource area, it costs only 50% as much, which is like 3.7k. And the Wine of Zamorak found in the Chaos Temple in 45 Wilderness, whenever you collect that, it will be noted. And then the Desert Hard Diary. All magic carpet rides are free now. The Pharaoh Scepter will hold up to 6 charges. The Camulet will teleport you, or it has the ability to teleport you outside of the entrance to the cave. And you can make unfinished potions at some NPC in Narda for the cost of 200 GP per potion. So all the XP lamps I got off all those diaries, I put them all on Slayer. And then something I was working on in between some of those diaries and in between some of the Slayer is doing Hunter. I did Red Chins over at the private Hunter area that you get from the Western Province Hard Diary. The reason I'm doing that place instead of Black Chins in the Wilderness is because personally, for some reason, I get better XP per hour here. Even when I'm not getting attacked in the wilderness. The GP is worse, but you don't have to worry about PKers, and I'm going to have enough money anyway, so I don't need to get the extra money that I would get from Black Chins. So I eventually got up to 98 Hunter, and that is where I stopped doing Hunter and went to finish off Slayer completely. At that point, the only things I had left were 1 Hunter level, 72 Slayer, and then the Fally Hard Diary. And I didn't go over this too much earlier, but the one task that we have that we burst is Dust Devils once you hit 65 Slayer. Here's a clip of me bursting them. It's very simple. You bring some darts and accumulator, use darts to aggro them onto you, and then you get them over in a corner, and then you run back and forth, as I do, and then that will line them up into a single slot, and that is how you burst them. You actually get a fair amount of loot off of them. I imagine that you probably just about break even from the loot. And so in total from the Slayer, I ended up getting 2,637k in loot, and I used 6,107k in supplies, which means I lost a total of 3,470k. So Slayer is definitely pretty expensive when you're doing it for XP. That is more than I used for crafting or herblore. When you get to higher Slayer levels, it can be pretty profitable and still fairly fast if you do tasks like Cerberus. But at our level, we can't really kill anything that drops anything good, so it's pretty much just a big money drain if you want fast XP. So after I had 72 Slayer, that was the last requirement for the Fally Hard Diary, so I went and did that, and the rewards off that are Fally Shield will give 100% prayer restore once per day. The Fally Shield will also act as a locator for the Giant Mole, access to the bank chest at the Crafting Guild, and Giant Mole will drop noted moleskins and claws, and you unlock the shortcut in the Heroes Guild to the Fountain of Heroes. And I put the XP lamp on Slayer as well. That is the biggest goal of the account done. That is every hard diary in the game complete. I did them all without any boosts. That's kind of something I picked up later on in the series. I decided I was going to do all the diaries without any boosts. So in order to finish them all, I had to get almost all of my skills up to level 70 or higher. There's only like 2 or 3 I think that are below level 70. I had to get almost a quest cape. I have like 225 quest points I think, and I still have some free to play quests that give quite a bit, so really I'm not too far off of a quest cape. And there was some long grinds for some of the requirements as well that don't relate to skills or quests. Bones to Peaches is one of them. I forgot to mention that earlier, but for the Lumbee Hard Diary you have to unlock Bones to Peaches over at the Mage Training Arena, which takes around, I think it was like 4 or 5 hours. And there's just a bunch of stuff you have to do in order to do all of these. The diaries themselves, they seem like they'd be pretty quick, but they actually take a fair bit of time if you don't sit down and like plan an efficient route, which I didn't do. So just doing the diaries themselves actually took a pretty significant chunk of time. So the only thing left on the account is to get a 99, which will be Hunter. I have 1 Hunter level left. So I finished off 99 Hunter over at the Red Chin Private Hunter area. I had more than enough money to finish the goal of a godsword set, so that is every single goal on the account complete. So that is nice to have this account done. This series works really well for me because of the amount of time it required. I am going to school right now, so I have to, that's the first priority, so I didn't always have time to make videos on my main account. And this series worked really well to allow me to get videos out every week. But it's nice to be done. I'm going to be looking forward to playing my main account or any other accounts that I decide to play. I ended up having over 5 mil extra GP after buying my godsword set. And just to recap the goals I had in the beginning: Barrow's Gloves, done. All Hard Diaries, done. Godsword set, done. 105 Combat, done. A 99, done. And the timer's gone. What's there is actually a little corner of a video of Gordon Ramsay's best restaurant or something like that. I just used a screen capture to get the timer, so sometimes I forget to put the tab on that has the timer when I'm recording. So sorry about that. But that is day 283. The account is complete. I was expecting it to be more around day 240 or 250, so I am. It did take a little bit longer than I was expecting. And like I said earlier on in the video and the series, one of the goals of these videos and the series was to see how quick I could make a high level account. Both, if you played 1 hour a day, if you average it, I did play a little bit over 1 hour a day because of the weekends. I could play 2 hours. So there is the day count that it would take if you played as efficiently as me. To make this account if you played just a little over an hour a day. I was also interested in just the playtime in total, so I'm going to go check that over in Hands in Lumbridge, and it ended up taking 15 days, 2 hours, and 50 minutes in order to complete the account, which works out to be 362 hours and 50 minutes, which is actually fairly quick for the amount of stuff that I did, so I'm pretty happy with that. And to compare it to Crystal Math Lab's efficient hours played, they have me at 311 hours. And just really quickly, what Crystal Math Labs is they take your account, they look at all the XP and all your skills, then they have like XP rate that is the efficient XP rate for that skill. Then they divide your XP by that XP rates to give you how many hours you've put into that skill. They have different XP rates for different levels, so it is fairly accurate. Much more accurate if you're going for like 200 mil alls. The lower levels aren't as accurate, but they are still pretty accurate. And the rates they put are basically if you're playing just about as efficiently as possible. And they don't count time gaining money. They assume that you either buy money or you have alts that make you money. So if I can stack up against them pretty well, then that is very good. If you divide 311 hours, which is how many EHP they've given me, by the amount that it took me, which was 362.83, that means I was 86% efficient, which is actually really good if you consider I almost have a quest cape. I have all the hard diaries done, and they take quite a while, and they have other requirements like Bones to Peaches and Full Prospector and stuff like that. I also made all my money myself, and I'm not finishing with 0 GP. I didn't just make as much as I needed to get the skills, and I finished with about an 87 mil bank. All of that was through a guaranteed moneymaker. I didn't go to some boss and get a lucky drop. Also, I think a lot of combat XP on Crystal Math Labs doesn't count for much because you're supposed to do it through Slayer, so a lot of my combat, 105 combat, I have 85 attack, 85 strength, 80 defense. A lot of that didn't count for much EHP, even though I did spend a good amount of time on that outside of Slayer. So all in all, I'm pretty happy with the time it took me. I'm pretty happy with this series and being done. So I hope you all enjoyed the series. Thank you all for watching, and see you next time.